My reset is over. And that means it's week 15 of this NFL regular season, and we've got a lot to work to get to, a lot of content to get to, of course. Welcome inside the vault. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my partner and co-host who's been holding it down over the last week or so for me as I travel through Europe and Scandinavia. That is Sarah Ellison, partner. As always, thank you so much for your efforts that allowed me to go and do my thing with a college buddy. We'll get to that, I'm sure, at points throughout the show. But as you can see in the headline, as you can see if you're on Twitter, there's plenty to get to, including the new details that have emerged courtesy of the Baltimore Sun's reporting about a come-to-Jesus meeting, if you will, that lasted almost 2 hours. Was it 90 minutes to be exact,
90 minutes.
Sarah? Okay.
Yep, 90 minutes.
90 minutes, and it was a defensive meeting. It wasn't players only, but there was a lot that comes from this that we're going to have to get to in just a second. This live stream is brought to you by our friends at Mantis Sleep. It is Tuesday, December 10th, and of course it's Ravens-Giants coming up this Sunday on the road for Baltimore in the Meadowlands. That's what we're working towards. There'll be other things that we'll discuss, of course, over the next hour or so as well. John Harbaugh, during his Monday press conference, was pressed on the locker room buy-in or lack thereof. Diontae Johnson's teammates had to field questions post-suspension. You just knew, Sarah, as soon as I go across the country, as soon as you leave the country, something takes place. And as soon as that news came down, I'm sitting in a restaurant in Stockholm, Sweden, thinking to myself, dang it, I want to go live with her right now. But we couldn't. We had to resist the urge. And here we sit now. Again, thank you. It's great to be back with you.
Oh, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. I missed you. Chat missed you. We all missed you. I'm happy that you got your reset. Absolutely deserved. You've been holding it down here for a while for sure. I feel like at the back end of this, after Quick Hits, we can maybe get some details of the vacation, maybe some highlights, maybe.
Sure.
I would really enjoy that. But welcome back. Glad you're back. We missed you. So now let's just jump right in.
Absolutely. There's going to be plenty of chatter about the way the vacation began, the way that it ended, and everything in between. So hold on to that. Probably after 1 o'clock at this rate. We're going to get to that. But first, as promised, the Baltimore Sun, and reporting done here by Sam Cohen, took a look at a Ravens defensive meeting. And as he wrote it, and as the Sun phrased this title, inside the Ravens defensive meeting that sparked a dramatic turnaround. And the quote that he used here to kind of, as a microcosm of the piece is the following. Quote, excuse my language, but it was really like, F everybody. F everything else that's going around. Let's play together as one. And that came from Ardarius, you said?
No, it was Ardarius Washington, yep.
Ardarius Washington, one of several players.
Who has been key to the turnaround, let's be honest.
He has been key to the turnaround, and he was one of several players that Sam and the Sun spoke to away from a podium-type setting over the course of the last week or so. So we all remember how this thing ended. Maybe some of you had to take a reset like I did. Now, I just did it because of previous planning. Or maybe you guys have been...
It's tradition by now.
It's tradition. The bye-week getaway is tradition. And so I got the reset that I needed. Sarah, after you read this piece, I know you're going to get into it right now. Do you feel like the Ravens got the reset they needed?
Well, I think the numbers say that this meeting gave them that reset. In the first 10 games, Bobby, of the season, the defense was giving up on average 25.3 points per game and 367.9 yards, almost 400. Woof! After this meeting, the next 3 games, they brought it down about 4 points per game, 21.7 points per game. With this offense, the Ravens should win with that type of average, 21.7 points per game, and then 280 yards, so less than 300. It's been quite dramatic. I'd say the reset in the last 3 games are real. So let's get into it, courtesy of Sam Cohen of the Baltimore Sun. He opens up. The meeting lasted about 90 minutes on Tuesday in November. It included the entire Ravens defense. Walking out, Ardarius Washington felt a renewed sense of energy wash over the team, a turning point, perhaps. Then it's the quote that you just said, excuse my language, but F everybody, F everything that's going on. Let's play together as one. Sam writes, until that point, Baltimore's defense had sunk to the bottom of the league. They were number 32 in pass defense and the bottom 10 in points allowed per game. They were a maddening partner to the league's most prolific offense. The catalyst for the meeting was the narrow Thursday night football win over the Cincinnati Bengals, having given up 470 total yards and 5 touchdowns. Defensive coordinator Zach Orr didn't sleep much. He was back at the Owings Mills facility early the following morning. 4 days later was the open forum meeting that, should the Ravens defense finish the year on a high note and prove the statistical turnaround isn't a fluke, could come to define the season. I'm going to pause here for a minute, Bobby. I don't think you were covering the team, but maybe you've heard of it. It's reminding me of the Ravens Super Bowl year, although this meeting doesn't seem as dramatic. But players called that meeting almost a mutiny. They called it a mutiny. And I remember a couple years ago, I interviewed John Harbaugh about that meeting. And I said, was mutiny kind of dramatic? Is that what was happening? He's like, no, mutiny was a good word. Like, players were coming at me. And so while this one isn't to that level, and it sounds like it was defense rather than a team meeting, it was that meeting that kind of sparked a turnaround that Super Bowl year. And so thus far, to Sam's point, is if this ends up being more than a fluke over the last 3 games, it could come to define the season.
It's an important note, too. We have no idea whether or not the season will mirror the 2012-2013 one. But at least maybe it provides some hope for the fan base.
For sure.
Provides a sense of optimism that while this has been a grind and while this has been tumultuous at times, this is a first-place schedule. We've known that since May. We've known that since they did what they did in 2023. They are battle-tested. They are relatively healthy at this point in the year, which we're going to get to later on.
Mm-hmm.
And they could find themselves in a position where if you win out over the next 4 weeks, you still have a dang good chance, based on the degree of difficulty that Pittsburgh finishes its season with, of taking the division. And so with all this in mind, when we're going to continue to discuss takeaways here in the coming minutes from this meeting and just how dramatic it has been, and I think tumultuous is more of the word, given the personnel changes and the adjustments that have had to be made there and cuts and so on and so forth, and now a suspension from last week, they still find themselves in a good position. And so if you're looking for something to hang your hat on, maybe it's that.
Yeah, I think that's what Sam's getting to now. Bobby, there was actually 2 different kind of articles referencing this meeting. So I want to just cut back really quick to Brian Wacker's kind of version, which he did quickly after it happened. This Sam Cohen one is much more detail oriented. But remember that quote from Marlon Humphrey we all heard out of the locker room? It was referring to this meeting. It was the quote that he said from that meeting. The message kind of became a little bit clear. If you want to play ball, then we'll get you out there. If you don't, you're going to have to sit on the sidelines. Kind of sounds like the whole defense was in on that.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't just a Zach Orr or John Harbaugh. It's like, listen, you all can't keep bringing us down. Like, if you want to play, let's go. If you don't, then get to the sidelines. Humphrey went on to say, I think guys responded really well to what was being preached amongst the coaches, amongst the players, and we're holding guys more accountable now. The brand of defense we're playing, it's disrespectful to be in this Ravens uniform and play like that. And I feel like we've turned that corner. It's not perfect. I still think there are more corners to turn, but the mindset has really changed. The mindset has really changed. And that's kind of where it starts. Like, he's letting us know, guys, you guys aren't inside, but we are. I'm letting you know the mindset before this meeting that we saw and some of the benchings. Yeah. And the mindset after, he's like, it's not just changed. It's not really changed, but it's really changed. Like, he's trying to let us know.
Well, now with Sam's reporting out there, those words kind of hold new meaning, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go back to Sam's article here. He said there were a lot of hard truths shared between those 4 walls. Linebacker Malik Harrison remembers. Guys were more willing to take accountability and hold others to the standard. Linebacker Tavius Robinson said energy and accountability were the 2 main themes. Such meetings are commonplace, but this one came with a greater sense of urgency. Said Zach Orr, we had to do some deep soul searching, and it was a long meeting. So for one, Orr changed the parameters of how his defense congregates. Where they used to focus their time trickling down film study and dialogue to positional groups, now everything has become group oriented. So I cut some stuff out, but Urban kind of got into like how, how like there were so many miscommunications between players and people trying to do each other's jobs. He was saying by making the film study of the entire defense, they had a better idea of what other position groups were doing. And so by making that one, I think that made the communication better. And so that's one change that Orr did. He's like, okay, everybody's doing film study together rather than in your positional groups. You can do it there too, but we're doing one together. Then he said one or two guys being out of position on a given play can snowball the entire defense. Linebacker Roquan Smith has talked about that frustrating trait this season. Defensive end Brent Urban doubled down, saying one guy taking a risk to make a play can put someone else's job in jeopardy. Each frustrating Sunday cast more doubt on the group's ability to turn things around. They often cited communication impeding execution, hence more, I cut off the word, I think he's saying pentatonic film study. But then Orr was like, okay, this isn't just on the players. He says, it's not just on them, it's on me too. The first-year defensive play caller asked what he could do better or if there was anything he could cut out to help solve why they were doing in practice wasn't translating into games. Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, and Kyle Van Noy were some of the vocal leaders mentioned. I'm sure those are the guys. Like, there's no rookie being like, yeah, coach, you do this. So it was then where, like, the veteran stepped up and let him know what they feel like could change. And so Urban said, I think for certain guys, that hits home more as it's a different voice from the coaches they hear harp on issues every day. Robinson said, Marlon, he was the one who said the energy thing. It was big for him, just playing with that energy. When your boy makes a play, run in there and hype him up. We all just feed off of each other, and I think it just makes us closer and makes us play with the swagger. Talked about how Humphrey went and picked off Russell Wilson in the back of the end zone days later, and then everybody came swarming in. Funny that it was like Marlon who was like, hey, hype up your guys, and then so it was him who was going to be hyped up. Let me see here. I thought I had another slide in here. Is maybe one got in here that nope. I thought I had one more in here. But basically, our Darius Washington came back saying, it's the same kind of tone that Marlon said. He's like, it's just completely changed. Like there's like a different energy. There's a different communication. I think maybe they got some voices, maybe some negative voices out. I think that's where the sittings kind of came in and some hard truths were spoken. But Bobby, to me, thus far in 3 games, doing it for 1 game is a fluke. 2 games, it's like, okay, maybe we got something going on. 3 games, pretty big. Now coming up, they have 2 teams with top 12 passing offenses. So they're still going to be tested. So it's like Sam said, if they're able to close out these 4 games playing on a high note, it's like, okay, that meeting is what turned it all around. But, they've got some great challenges ahead, and so they still have plenty to prove.
8-5, squarely involved in the postseason conversation right now. And as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, can really put themselves in a great position to still be in play to take this division if you win out. If you take care of business coming out of the bye, like Lamar, you already know he is fully concentrated on doing that after his press conference following the Eagles game. And if you don't know that already, then just go back and watch the press conference and the state of mind that he was in after that Eagles loss. And so from there, obviously you have this is that meat. It may not be from a degree of difficulty standpoint a tough stretch when you compare it to the way they began their season. But 3 games in 10 days is no joke. And it all starts on Sunday in the Meadowlands. You then turn around. You have round 2 against the Steelers, Christmas Day against Houston on the road in Texans land, and you follow things up by finishing it off with Cleveland. So to think that we just spent 16 plus minutes to start off the show on an issue that has really been has plagued them. And Justin Tucker, of course, has been part of these losses as well. We're not just pinning it on a defense, but we know for multiple months now, this defense has been very much out of character, statistically speaking, on the back end. And to think that they're still in a position where they can maybe not control their destiny, but have a darn good chance of doing so if they win out, there's a lot to like given the I guess instability would be the right word.
Yeah, and by the way, you brought up that the Ravens have, 3 games in 10 days. The Steelers do too. And that's their big competition right now in winning the AFC North. But the Steelers have tougher games and they're not coming off a bye. So as big as the mountain is for the Ravens, it's actually a bigger mountain for the Steelers.
Oh, yeah, Pittsburgh's got, again, we know we've talked about the statistic for weeks now that 6 of the last 8 on this year's schedule is in division. Well, the 2 that are outside of it, Philly and Kansas City. So
yeah, exactly.
It's no joke for them.
Even though the Ravens already played those guys. So
yeah.
I'm just saying from here on out, they have a tougher mountain to climb to finish things out.
Sure. John Harbaugh had a lot to say about, well, didn't have a lot to say about it, but he was pressed along the lines of what we just discussed during yesterday's press conference. We're going to get to that and what he had to say in response to a lot of this noise in just a second. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Mantis Sleep. And I mean, what a great excuse to kind of share how I took advantage of the sleep mask while on the road, Sarah. And I don't look very happy on the left slide because I was exhausted.
You're
in that
tired.
State.
Yeah.
You know how it goes with me. When I get such a high, such a fulfillment off of travel that when I'm somewhere I've never been before, you already know I'm getting like maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep per night. We average 20,000 steps per day. We
crazy.
crushed Stockholm. We crushed some towns outside of Oslo, Norway, including Oslo itself. And so that was taken on the train. So whether I was on the train, it actually turned into sort of like a heating mask for me as well, because it was so bitter cold that I used it as like a mask, like an actual
I was
heat
wondering,
mask.
I was like, why you have it with like out and about during the day? So that's what you used it for. All right.
Oh, literally. And it's Velcro.
Yeah.
So that thing was around my neck and it was basically like a scarf.
Yeah.
So again, want to be clear, it's a sleep mask, but I used it as I had a multi-use over the course of my bi-week European getaway. So anyway, just keep that in mind. The Mantis Sleep Mask Pro is what you're looking at on the screen right now, the one that I had with me along my travels in Scandinavia. It gives you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. 0 pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes. And I can speak to that too, because I needed to sleep. When we were on planes, trains, and automobiles, like I needed to sleep. And this thing provided me such comfort over the last 7 days. You got advanced materials and ventilation built in for unmatched breathability. And as we've always told you as well, it's not just the Mantis Sleep Mask Pro. When you go over to the website, you'll see under their bestseller categories, you've got the sound mask with the built-in Bluetooth feature. This is the one that I was wearing. The silk and the sleep masks are good options as well. And if you find something you like ahead of this holiday season, that we're smack dab right in the middle of this holiday season, use our discount code VAULT10. That is VAULT10 at checkout, which will give you 10% off your next purchase. And it would help out us. It would help out you and hopefully whoever the recipient is of this gift. MantisSleep.com. All that information can be found in the show notes below. So, John Harbaugh.
Should we get to a couple super chats first?
We should. Thank you.
Look at me. Still love Sarah's bringing in some putting on a producing hat. But just for today.
You already know why you need it, though. Why I need it badly. I'm jet lagged like a mofo right now. Like I'm in a state where, whatever. I mean, I'm good. I slept well last night, but I'm pretty out of it right now. Prince Lee says my son arrived this morning. Oh, okay. Prince, congratulations, man.
Prince Lee.
So let's see. Flock Nation, 8 pounds, 7 ounces. I'll be changing my YouTube name. My son is the real Prince Lee. That's awesome.
Oh, I love that. Congratulations.
Very cool. December 10th,
Prince,
2024.
Is that your first?
Let us know, Prince.
No. Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome. Awesome news. And you're with us on the day of your son's birth. That's pretty cool. Awesome. Mike says, I'm glad Lamar's mom said what we've all been saying and thinking for a while. If it's there, run. Josh Allen does and gets no flack. Rave says, Ben Cleveland, Ravens is watching. Daniel Rodriguez says, I'm late today, but welcome back, Bobby Bathroom.
That is funny. The last time we spoke, it was from the men's bathroom in some Washington, D.C. federal building. Yes.
the State Department. We'll get into those details a little bit later on. D-Rod, I was not going to the bathroom, just to be clear, in case you missed that
in
segment.
case you missed that to the party. Yes,
but-
let's make that very clear.
But I was in the State Department passport building bathroom. We'll get to that. Thanks,
cannot
D-Rod.
tell you how like awkward and scared I was during that entire time. Like I was like, I don't know what I'm going to see in here. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Bobby's going to get arrested because he shouldn't have his phone in there. Like it was stressing me out.
I put you through an absolute vortex. Yeah. And just to be clear too, the stream was not taken down by the powers that be.
Oh, yeah.
I accidentally ended the stream, and then I called Sarah on my way back to Baltimore, and I felt horrible because she was not done with the stream yet. So just to be clear.
Real quick here. Oh, wrong one. Prince Lee, second child, Sarah and Bobby, and last. All right.
Awesome.
Got 2 of them. Good for you.
Congratulations to the Lee family. Eric says, do we really notice any changes made over the bye since the Giants are such a miserable team, or do we have to wait for real competition?
We're probably going to have to wait till Steelers. We'll know.
Yeah. Wait till the 21st. Now, if the offense comes out and hangs a 50 burger on the G-men,
I feel pretty good.
You can say to yourself, all right, these guys are playing ticked off right now, and this Deontay Johnson headline is that, just a headline.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
And conversely, if they like struggle to put up 20, then we're like, gulp.
These guys still got pride. They still got pride. They are miserable, Eric. You're right. And I can't imagine they're going to retain Brian Daboll. Maybe they will because Daniel Jones wasn't his quarterback. Maybe they get rid of the GM and give Daboll a chance to pick his quarterback in New York. But it's been an utter disaster there. And so you'd like to think this is a get-right game for the Ravens coming off their bye. So John Harbaugh, Sarah, fielded several questions during his Monday press conference, just a 7-minute press conference. And it almost ended after 2 questions.
Yeah.
2
Luckily,
questions.
they reeled it back in. I heard Jeff being like, John, like,
oh yeah.
I don't, maybe they were tweeting on their phones after he like gave his comment on Deontay Johnson, but they almost lost him. I'm glad they brought him
almost
back.
did. He walked off the podium from what I could see from the microphone. This was an outdoor, I believe this is outdoors. And the YouTube screen went to thank you for watching as if it was over.
Yes.
Then they had to, on the production side of things, bring him back on screen. And so luckily reporters were able to kind of get a few more in, one of which was about the buy-in that you tweeted about.
Right. Well, we'll play it and then we can talk about it on the other end here. Yeah. So Jeff Strebeck asked him, like, are you nervous about locker room buy-in with their individual roles? And he cited, Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams, and Diontae Johnson as examples. Here's John.
In the locker room in terms of roles and all that, or is that just always a challenge in individual situations?
I think we've been doing great. I mean, we got guys that are out there playing heck hard. You talking about the receiver room? Is that what you're talking about?
Not just receiver room, also Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams. And
guys have been professional. They work hard. Guys want to play. And, it's based on opportunity. It's based on performance. It's based on need. All those things. Our locker room has been fantastic. Guys have been working hard. You saw the way they practice out here today. So I'm really happy. You see how hard they play every single week. We're in a great place, and I love our guys.
The classic, I love our guys. Everybody hates it when he says that. So he says guys have been professional. They work hard. Guys want to play. It's based on opportunity, performance, need, all of those things. Our locker room has been fantastic. So we'll react in just a minute. Meanwhile, Bobby, the reporters then went inside the locker room and they talked specifically to the receivers, Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, about Deontay Johnson. What did they have to say there?
Yes, this is courtesy of Bowie TV and reporter Karita Parks catching up with Zay on that very topic.
He one of my guys. He one of our guys, so I really got much to say about it.
So he'd absolutely be welcome back, say?
Yeah, he'll be welcome back.
Is it difficult to block that distraction out?
It's not a distraction.
No,
it's not a distraction.
And as for Rashad, fellow wide receiver, Jamison Hensley transcribed what he had to say on this topic, which was, quote, "We understand both sides, and there are consequences that come with this game. I know he'll be back soon, and that's all we worry about." And if you've been living under a rock and just straight up ignored all content over the last week, you may not know that Deontay Johnson was suspended for 1 game. He will not practice this week, and he will not be available coming up on Sunday versus the Giants, Sarah.
All right, so you were out when the Diontae Johnson suspension came down, as we mentioned. So what are your thoughts? Do you feel like they're calling it pretty accurately? Like it's not a big distraction, or do you feel like there is a little bit more than they're letting on?
I think it's definitely the latter. Now, the impact, is it impactful from a distraction standpoint? I don't view it as an impactful distraction, but I think that they're all downplaying it. Right? I think whether it's Harbaugh, his teammates, whatever, they're clearly downplaying it and trying to move forward, which that's all you can do. You don't want to make something bigger of this. But as I think we've discussed in the past, Diontae wasn't expected to come in and be the guy. He was supposed to be insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of it, there was so much reaction to this, and I was tweeting from Sweden, and I tried to keep up with as much of it as possible. And a lot of what I saw was look at his body of work, and this is from people responding to tweets, whether it's me, you, whatever. And you let me know if you found similar as well. A lot of people were responding to me and saying, look at his body of work. Why isn't he playing? Why doesn't he have a prominent role? He wasn't brought in for that. It's not about what have you done for me in the past. It's what have you done for me lately. And I'm not saying he can't be impactful for them down the stretch. They brought him in for basically nothing, to be an insurance piece for guys that have really established themselves. A number one, an arguable number one in Zay Flowers, who's heading for potentially his first Pro Bowl season in year 2. And Rashad Bateman, who coming off an extension, team friendly, has actually met expectations for what those numbers dictate, what Eric DeCosta brought him in to do. And so I didn't necessarily understand the reaction of frustration that Diontae should be this, he should be that. He was meant to be a depth piece for them, and anything more would be gravy. Right. That was my thought on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think your word of impact is a good one. Like, you don't want to underplay it, but you also don't want to overplay it. And so what's the impact? So to me, with the 3 that Jeff Zrebiec had cited to John Harbaugh, with Marcus Williams, I'd say that hits a 0 or a 1 on a scale to 10 of distraction. He was playing terribly and he was benched. He has not complained. He has not put up a fit. He has been completely professional. So that to me, on a distraction level, hits a from. So I want to make sure that we're making something very clear. Benching somebody for poor play is just part of football. That's not losing a locker room. That's, you're not cutting it. We got to put somebody else in that will. Okay.
Hence Marlon's comments.
Exactly. Hence Marlon's comments. And we just read from the defense how all of them held each other accountable. And it was hey, either you're going to get with it or you're going to sit. That seemed like a full defensive team mentality. Buy-in. Using the word buy-in. To me, reading the reports of what was going on, the defense is bought in on the changes that were made on defense. Right?
Sure,
how do you read that defense? How do you read those quotes and that story any other way? So when you ask John Harbaugh, is there buy-in? Well, there's probably not buy-in from Marcus Williams. I'm sure he still believes in himself, but he's being professional. There clearly wasn't buy-in from Eddie Jackson, but that's an Eddie Jackson problem because he wasn't playing to a level. I'm not going to have you play if you play poorly, but hey, you put up a fit. So now I'm going to play you. That's not how this works. So there for sure was buy-in on the defensive side. Okay. And so the Eddie Jackson, I might put that as a distraction, maybe as a 2 or 3, because he obviously said something or did something that made him not travel and then was cut. But we're talking about a depth guy that his cut didn't even make national media, not even a whisper. So how is that? That's barely a distraction. Okay, barely. Now, Diontae, I would put it on a scale from 1 to 10. I'd put Diontae at a 4. Because Bobby, you weren't here the next day when I was trying to do a show on it. In my mind, that night I was going to bed and I was okay, well, there's not a whole lot of national reaction for the show, we usually try to get national reaction. And so I was like, tomorrow morning, I'll get up, I'll watch all the regular shows. I'll watch Get Up, I'll watch First Take, I'll watch like all of them. The only national show that I could find that morning that had even mentioned it was Good Morning Football. That was
People
it.
didn't care. People didn't
People
care.
didn't care. And it's partly because Deontay's history, and it's partly because at best he's your wide receiver 3. So I get from like those that are in it every day with us, like the chat that's here with us every single day. Right now we got 2,200 people. There's like a good, like these people are in the weeds every day. So to us and to them, it was like huge news, but it barely scratched the surface. Now, let me give you an example that did more than scratching the surface. Have you been watching Philadelphia right now? Philadelphia.
AJ's comments.
Yes. Philadelphia is on a 9-game winning streak. And their star receiver was asked after their last win, what can you guys improve? And he says, passing. Bobby, that would be like if somebody asked you, hey, Bobby, how can you improve the vault? And you say, co-hosting. I'd be like,
yeah.
Take it easy, bro. And
right.
then on top of it, I can't remember the guy's name, but you know how players often go on like local radio shows. They have like weekly shows, like what Roquan Smith did with us last year, or like what people do with 105.7 The Fan often. One of the teammates, he's like, hey, I'm just going to be honest. He's like, number 1 could probably try harder. Number 11, he's trying. It's like basically throwing AJ Brown under the bus.
This was Brandon Graham.
It was Brandon
Graham,
highly
respected Eagle.
Okay,
Brandon Graham, who just went down for the year, and those comments obviously hold a lot of weight.
Yeah. So I'm just bringing it up to like, and by the way, I need the Eagles to get it together because they have the Steelers coming up. So can you guys get this fixed? And then after the Steelers, do what you got to do, but get your locker room together over there. So to me, when you're like comparing the situations, if this was like a star receiver, or if this was a Hollywood Brown where he's like, what's the point of having soldiers? Like that hit a certain level because that's a star receiver calling out your offensive coordinator. But in this situation, like we're talking about at best the wide receiver 3, unless somebody else gets down and is injured. It's not hitting national news. He did get suspended. So I'm sure there were words. Obviously, Lamar Jackson has had to speak to him. Reporters have said that. So to me, it hits a 4 because it's like the middle to the back of your roster of wide receiver. That's where it's at. And it's not even hitting national news. So to me, because we're in the weeds, it feels bigger, but I honestly don't think. I think for me, it hits a 4. I can see the chat. They say it's way more, but for me, that's all it is.
Well, I think those numbers that you just tallied up for all 3 specific situations, Eddie, Marcus, and now Diontae, I think those are fair. Yeah. Now, when you add those together, that should be a part of the conversation as well. 4 + 3 + 2. Is that what you did? So,
or a 0 plus a 1 plus a 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had Marcus 0 to 1. Is that what it was?
Yeah, but more at 0 because he hasn't said anything. Like it's like and then the team was all bought in.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I think your tallying is fine. It's just the perfect storm nature to it, and the once you start tallying it on top of some of the other adversity that they've faced, specifically not being able to put up points, should be a part of the conversation too. And so. Enter Justin Tucker. We know that he is having
this one to me is more a bigger deal. Yes.
This is the most trying year of his career. I don't think that there's any hyperbole about that. John Harbaugh was asked about Justin during his press conference. He said that he spoke to Justin and he believes he's coming back from the bye week in a good place. Justin himself checked in with the media as well. This is also courtesy of Bowie TV and Karita Parks reporting.
It was good to get back in here first thing this morning. See all the guys. I mean, I was here all week for the most part, anyways, in and out of the building. But it's good to come back in, see everybody. Get in the meeting room, get out on the practice field, and just get right back to work.
Now, of course, Sarah Twitter reacting accordingly, saying that he looks terrible, he looks exhausted, he looks this, that, and the other. I don't necessarily see that. I just see
helmet off.
Yeah, I see the same old Justin Tucker, probably post-practice and being courteous of his time and generous with his time as he always is with the media. But now kind of the question becomes, Sarah, as we mentioned at the top, I got my needed reset. The Ravens potentially got theirs as a team. But did Justin get the reset that he needed individually to come back and try and turn this season around? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, time will tell. Can I back up and ask? And this is what's nice about having you back is we can both check in on chat a little bit more. For those that are saying that I'm underplaying, right? And I want to ask you this and them. So like Evan and Chris, I appreciate the feedback. You guys think it's a bigger deal than what I'm saying. So let me ask you this. Let's take Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson. What specifically are they not bought in on, Bobby? Like what is their issue?
Marcus and Eddie?
Marcus and Eddie, what were their issues? And Marcus, we're like assuming he has an
performance.
Issue. It's how much they get to play, correct?
Performance.
Yeah. Okay. Did John Harbaugh make the correct decision? John Harbaugh, Zach Orr, whoever else had a hand in it. Did they make the correct decision in benching Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson?
Yes.
Yes. So what are we debating here? That's a Eddie Jackson problem and a Marcus Williams problem, not a buy-in problem. That's why I'm like confused. Like everybody's like, it feels to me, and chat can tell me if I'm wrong. It feels to me that those that are already upset with John, and for some fair reasoning, that now they want to pile on and they want to make it a bigger deal to make it look like Harbaugh's a problem. And Harbaugh has his own problems. It was the correct decision to bench those guys. These are grown men who are professionals and get paid a lot. Now, if you want to criticize Eric DaCosta for the contract he gave Marcus Williams and all of that, that's different. But when we're talking about locker room buy-in, it's the correct decision to bench them. And if they had a problem with it, then they should have played better. Now, I could maybe see people saying, well, what about Diontae Johnson? He deserves more. And I agree. I think Diontae Johnson deserves wide receiver 3. But he's been played as wide receiver 5. So you could maybe criticize the decision there, but then he lost all my sympathy when he had an opportunity and said, no, thanks.
Right. On top of, even albeit a small sample size, on top of underperformance, 1 for 5 so far in Lamar Jackson targets.
Right. So how is this egg on like Harbaugh's face, which is what I feel like people are trying to make it? He made the right decisions with Eddie and with Williams. You could criticize him, say, okay, well, you should have played it more for Diontae. But then when that time came, he said, no, thanks. So that's a Diontae problem. This isn't an egg on. Now, I disagree with Harbaugh with Ben Cleveland and Daniel Fa'alele.
Yeah.
Now, if you want, you can I have criticized him for that. But these other situations, I just feel like people are trying to make it a John Harbaugh problem when I feel like he's made the right decisions with it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
If that's not necessarily the feeling that I was getting from the chat, but maybe we were looking at different comments.
Maybe I'm
what I
looking
was
at
more
it differently.
what I was more so getting as from a feeling, and I think what I'm saying as well is that there has been a lot of it's felt like an uphill climb.
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it more as less of a John Harbaugh thing, because to your point, as you get into the nitty gritty of each one of these decisions, the right ones have been made. Now, you just referenced a couple that we wish would have been made months ago. And still
or that
can
I
be
wish
made.
you'd bring in a kicker on the practice squad. Like, I'll criticize that. Like, bring one in, you know?
Okay.
So anyway, I just feel like there's some out there trying to pile on is all.
And that would fit what a lot of people want, right? It would fit the consistent narrative that's surrounded John Harbaugh for seemingly years now. Maybe since Lamar's career began around John Harbaugh, which is now 7 years running. Lamar's about to finish his 7th NFL season. So good stuff there. Should we talk about some practice notes?
Yes.
Health-wise, because again, this is getting back to, if you're looking for something to hang your hat on here, optimistically wise, the Ravens are healthy, man. It's just 2 players not on the practice field on Monday. This is according to Jeff and other reporters that were out there. Sanusi Kane has been dealing with a hamstring, rookie out of Purdue, and Diontae Johnson, who of course won't be available all week long, suspension-wise. Michael Pierce, TJ Tampa were both practicing. Michael's, of course, nose tackle, run stuffer specialist in the middle. He's been on IR for over a month. TJ, he's in the middle of his practice window, by the way, as is TJ Tampa, the rookie out of Iowa State at corner. So both of those guys are back practicing. And Sarah, if I'm the Ravens and you trust Big MP, give him another week. They need him come the 21st against Pittsburgh.
Can they wait another week? I thought he had 3 weeks.
Ooh, the activation window. When did that begin?
He started right before he came back before the Eagles game.
Thank you.
Then there was the bye.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the 3rd week of practicing.
All right. So if that's the case, they got to bring him up. But
yeah.
But anyway, okay, they go easy on him then.
Yeah, like be careful with the snap shares.
Yeah, like if you want to bring up Tupou, your practice squad knows. Give him a little bit of a sample size to get in there and make sure MP is ready to go, because they're going to need him and all their big bodies in the trenches come the 21st for round 2 of the rivalry.
So another one that's come back, but it didn't seem like he needed to come back because it was just at the end of. Remember, the whole Diontae thing came up because Rashad Bateman left the game with a knee, and so he practiced fully. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Knocking on wood. It took a long time to get to the bye week, but having it week 14 turns out not to be so bad. You got 4 games. You got some nice rest to get ready for these playoffs. And at this rate, it doesn't look like they're going to have a first-round bye.
Yes.
So we won't be having that debate this year.
No.
And so this is it. This was their bye. And you can't get much healthier through an NFL season. So they got everybody's ready. Everybody's ready to go.
Which brings us to the final stretch that you're alluding to here and the current playoff picture. Right now, the postseason began. Of course, Kansas City would be your top overall seed with the bye. Buffalo would be 2. In the hunt, I mean, they're labeling this as in the hunt right now on NFL.com because the season's not over. But Pittsburgh would be 3. Houston would be 4. Baltimore would be 5, matching up with Houston on the road. Chargers would be 6, and Denver would be 7. On the bubble, Indy, Miami, Cincy. Bengals kept their playoff hopes alive, Sarah, last night, beating the Dallas Cowboys. They are now 5-8, are the Bengals.
On a
Still got a lot of work to do.
By the way, a crazy ending to that game.
Micah Parsons leaves the field early in frustration. Dallas is a disaster. You know the drill.
Dallas can't get out of their own way, like the Ravens, but the Ravens are more talented.
Right? No kidding.
Now, real quick, because we're going to ask each other a question. Can the Ravens run the table and win out with these last 4? But before we do that, let me just set up what's needed to win the AFC North. Pretty much, if you look at the percentages, Bobby, the Ravens are either going to finish the 3rd seed, unless like the Bills self-destruct, right? Which I'm not predicting. The Bills would have to lose a lot. So they're either going to finish 3rd if they're able to win out, beat the Steelers, and the Steelers would have to win a couple, or they're most likely going to finish 5th or 6th. Probably 5th because they win tiebreakers over both the Broncos and Chargers. But let's say the Ravens are able to beat the Steelers in the rematch. Okay. So then all of a sudden you no longer have the head-to-head as a tiebreaker because you've each won 1 game. So then it moves to who has the best divisional record. Well, if the Ravens win, then at that point, both the Ravens and the Steelers will be 3-2 in the division. Both teams having 1 more AFC North game. The Ravens get the Browns, and the Steelers will have the Bengals. Okay. Now, if they both end up winning their last AFC North games, then the tiebreaker will become who owns the best record amongst common opponents. And I don't have that number at this point. So, I mean, point being, Bobby, if the Ravens want to win the AFC North, not only do they need to beat the Steelers, but they're also going to need to have this. They also need the Steelers to win 1 or 2 more, which basically you're saying Steelers, can you lose to Ravens, Chiefs, and Eagles? Because then the Bengals, they could maybe win.
Right.
Now, it's certainly possible that they lose to all 3, but you'd think they could eke out 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having said all that, I'm just pointing out that it is a huge uphill battle to win the AFC North.
It is.
Okay. That said, these 4 games, do you think the Ravens will win out coming back from the bye?
I don't feel very confident about that. I think they'll have a winning record. I could see them going 3-1.
Yeah.
I don't feel very. What kind of confidence do I have to stand on about an unbeaten final stretch here? That would put them in great position, to your point, to win this division. Pittsburgh currently has a 2-game lead entering this weekend. So you probably have a darn good chance, including with that head-to-head, if you go unbeaten 4-0 over the next 4 weeks, but I'm not counting on it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not counting on it. I mean, I could see it happening. I feel like the Ravens have played good December football. I'm just thinking last year, how it just felt like the Ravens had just felt like an impossible December schedule, and then they balled out. So, I mean, it's possible, but this team is so much more mistake prone. So I'm with you. I'm going to go 3-1.
Yeah,
Because
either
let's say,
Pittsburgh or Houston being one of the losses, correct?
yeah, but let's even say they win those 3, and then I get like if they don't have anything to play for, like if the Steelers end up winning, let's say, either beating the Chiefs or the Eagles, and then you see that, okay, I can't get better seeding, then maybe the Browns one doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I could see a 3-1. I'm seeing some people say 2-2. What does chat have? What do you guys have? Let us know. There's some super chats in here too.
We do on this topic, so we might as well fit those in as we're talking about it. C says winning the division isn't important as long as we get on a roll in the playoffs. Edwin writes, Sarah, no, 2-2 or 3-1 at best, which I think is what you're getting at anyway.
Yeah.
3-1, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Wins versus the Giants and Browns, little confidence versus the Steelers, decent versus the Texans, 3-1 at best. I think 3-1 is, it's one of those Houston, or obviously it's not, I'm not saying anything crazy right now, thinking that it's going to be either Pittsburgh or Houston, right, that hands Baltimore a loss.
Mm-hmm.
But those are my thoughts on it. So let's see. Some other super chats have come in as well. Cam writes, I think when Harbs sat up there and lied about the offensive line. 77, meaning Fa'alele, was never in competition. So why lie? They gave him the job. People, in quotes, fans, lost trust.
What is he referring to?
I don't know. But thanks, Cam.
Can you expand on that, Cam? Yeah. Like, what do you mean that he lied that 77 was never in competition? I don't know what that was. I don't know what he's referring to. Let us know.
Thanks, Cam. I mean, maybe it was like a preseason conversation that right guard was up for competition when really it was, in his mind, never Ben's job to lose. I don't know.
Because they were giving Fa'alele the snaps from really early on, right?
Yeah,
maybe that's what he's referring to, that there was never really a real competition because nobody else got those snaps. That's probably true.
Thanks, Cam. Mike says it's a lot of fans, quote unquote fans, that think firing Harbaugh will elevate this team. Good luck. Habitual line stepper says, since you're back, Bobby, your opinion on the hit on Trevor Lawrence. As a lifetime Ravens fan, I don't see a problem. The fact that my QB doesn't slide, I definitely hate the suspension for Aziz. To be honest, I was like in Europe when all this is happening. Actually, no, did that happen on Sunday? That happened on Sunday, didn't it? The day before I left. Anyway, it's tough. I don't know if I have a true opinion.
I think on that specific play, I think Trevor was sliding. I think that one was clear.
He was definitely sliding.
He was sliding.
When you got Tom Brady coming out there and saying things like we're giving the quarterbacks almost too
right, but that was kind of
leeway.
separate. He was kind of like there's like two different issues, and I know this because I listened to it ad nauseum on ESPN all week. There's an issue more in general. Are quarterbacks testing the protective rules too much? And I would agree with Tom Brady and others that yes, they're testing it. And so why should it only be on the defense to protect quarterbacks and not on quarterbacks themselves and offensive coordinators? Because that's essentially what they're like relying on now. So that is a separate issue. On this specific play, I definitely think it was flag worthy. And I think his suspension, what played into it is he's had a lot of those type of flags. and a lot of those type of warnings. And I think that played into him specifically being suspended.
There you go. Track record is what I was going to get at. If I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken, yeah, to your point, he hasn't exactly had the cleanest track record. And so that could absolutely be part of the conversation, and probably was why that press release or that letter that he received, that memo, was written the way that it was. And it was
Mhm.
intensely written. But yeah, that was habitual. I appreciate the super chat, but I was kind of in Euro mode when all that was taking place. Eric writes, and we already hit this one, so we are fully caught up on super chats. Thank you guys for being here. We are closing in on that 20,000 subscription count number that I've been wanting for
It
weeks.
is close this time, though.
It is close.
Yeah.
We've got 35 subscriptions to go to 20,000. So I would love, and we would love for you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content, and please like the video as well. We got some quick hits to get to before we jump. And of course, we are going to talk about my trip if you are interested in hearing about it. But the Pro Bowl games coming up January, top 10 vote getters right now. A couple Ravens are in the top 5. That is Lamar leading the way with over 82,000 votes at the time of this graphics creation. And Derrick Henry just below Saquon Barkley for 3rd league-wide with over 76,000. You can cast your vote by posting hashtag Pro Bowl vote and the player's first and last name to submit your votes. Posts and reposts equal 1 vote.
I said this last week, and actually you were in DC and listening to me, and I got a little bit fiery on this one. I just want to reiterate, I think it's a big deal. I think it's really cool that Baltimore features at the quarterback position, the most important position. They feature a guy that is number 1 in vote getting. And obviously at the end of the day, he's going to have a gazillion Pro Bowls, and everybody wants the Super Bowl. And I get that, but I just don't want to take for granted that we're living in this moment with a quarterback that plays this well and is this popular at the quarterback position. It's not going to last forever. So I want to soak it up.
Well, we are living in a moment where Derrick Henry's signature is no longer. His signature do is no longer. And as you tweeted, and I saw a lot of people reacting to, as cornrows.
Yeah, cornrows.
What?
Did you not see this? Is this the first time you're seeing it?
Oh, I saw it. It's just kind of crazy that what prompted the change. Wow. Bye week. Talk about a reset.
I know. Well, first of all, I want to give shout out. This comes from the Instagram account, Tima Slays, TIMAA_SLAYZ. And so they're a hair place that does a lot of phenomenal work, a salon there. But it's funny because it's not good news if you know the Bible stories and Samson. When they cut his hair, he loses all of his power and abilities. But other people are like, okay, it's time. He's gonna go off from here on out. So let's go with that one. Let's go with that. That he just look at how much hair he had.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He probably lost a good 3 pounds right there. Let's go. He's gonna be all speedy now.
Well, what I found to be most jarring is the way that he looks with the helmet on. Now, granted, it's still pretty jarring without the helmet, but his signature look is those locks popping out of the helmet. And so actually, let me just pull this up real quick because I want to see if chat kind of feels similarly. And Karita has this. Karita Park's just getting after it with all this video. So shout out her. But let's pull this up real quick here on the fly because this is what to me is most noticeable. Look at him with the helmet on.
Yeah, it looks very different.
You don't even know who it is.
Yeah. Well, the 22 kind of gives it away.
The 22.
Yeah.
Take the 22 out of it.
And then he's just a big running back. But yeah, no, I mean, you're definitely used to seeing, the long hair coming out the bottom there.
There you go.
So.
Resetting.
There we go.
It's a reset. It's a full reset.
Hopefully the reporters get in there and get this breaking news. This news that we need to know. What prompted the change?
Chat's always funny. Any chance they get to have a good time with a hairline, they take it. I know, because I can speak from personal experience with that. But anyway.
You and Rashad Perriman.
Yeah.
People were brutal.
There you go. Talk to us about the latest on Bill Belichick, who could potentially end up becoming the next head coach at North Carolina, going to the college game.
Yeah, this is crazy. So
Wow.
I thought that maybe he was like, I don't know. I said last week, I was like, there's no way he's going to end up in the college ranks. Like, there's no way. Like, this is just him, like, I don't know, getting into the interview mode again or helping North Carolina out, saying that, like, hey, look, Bill Belichick's interested, so look at me. But then he goes on the Pat McAfee show, and he's got a big if in front of the statement. But look how serious he's clearly thought about this. Why isn't it playing? Do I have it on mute? Oh, because I put in slides instead of the video. Here we go.
Let me put this in capital letters. If.
Yeah.
IF. If I was in a college program, the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, techniques that would transfer to the NFL. It would be an NFL program at a college level, and an education that would get the players ready for their career after football, whether that was the end of their college career or at the end of their pro career. But it would be, geared toward, developing the player, time management, discipline, structure, and all that. That would be life skills, regardless of whether they're in the NFL or in somewhere in business. And I feel very confident that I have the contacts in the National Football League to pave the way for those players that would have the ability to have the opportunity to compete in the National Football League. Whether they're good enough or not, I don't know, but they would be ready for it. I don't have any doubt about that. So that would be the first comment that I would make. Relative to the structure of the program, it would be an NFL program, but not at the NFL level.
Yeah, which is quite a benefit to have the guy that ran the dynasty.
No doubt.
In the middle of this entire thing. Bill, listening to you lay that out, I just thought of every NFL guy's son. Okay, everybody that's ever been in the NFL that has a son that's in there, like Bill Belichick's offering up a one-way trip to how we're doing life. Yeah, we can go. Any expatriate that has a kid, obviously, over all those years, I assume they're going to be like, hey, need you to give my boy a rat. That's a big part of like college, though. It used to be development,
Yes.
Now it's like a big difference. And if you find the right guys, you can build it. And if you got the resources, you can do it anywhere, especially at a P4 program.
Was that a smile I saw Bill kind of crack when Pat's building him up? Definitely saw a smile.
Not here. That's not a smile.
Not right there. No, when he was like, oh yeah, I'm taking my kids to you, and he's like, like smiling.
Yeah.
So, no, he's thought about it, Bobby.
Well,
he's thought about it for sure.
This is really interesting to me. Bill Belichick is currently 14 wins away from tying the great Don Shula
Yes.
for the most wins in the history of the National Football League. There were reports that give us reason to believe that he was frozen out from last year's hiring cycle. The Patriots did not retain him. Robert Kraft let him walk. Clearly, the Patriots were never the same in the post-Tom Brady era. Mac Jones did not develop under Bill Belichick, and things went south quickly. And now, Gerard Mayo, a former Patriot, has been tasked with trying to rebuild the organization, and you've seen it all shake out. Sarah, I got to wonder if he thinks that he's going to be frozen from another hiring cycle coming up in a couple months.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what is going on here? Like you said, he's what was it, 14 wins you said?
He is 14 wins away from tying Don Shula.
That would probably take 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Unless he's got Tom Brady to come back and they live their glory days together. But that would probably take 2 seasons. But it is crazy to me. I guess it's not crazy. I mean, I'm just thinking back to like when Steve Bisciotti fired Brian Billick. And he made it clear. He's like, I want to find the next Hall of Famer. Like he wanted to build it in Baltimore. So I feel like owners are generally looking for that rather than like a guy that's going to be there for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So, but it's still Bill. So it's crazy to me that like he didn't even get an interview last year.
I can't remember if there were any I want to say he at least had interviews.
Yeah.
And now chat's saying that he's accepted the job. I haven't seen that yet at UNC.
Oh,
but there's been a lot of reports that have led you to believe that this thing is imminent at North Carolina.
That's crazy.
So if that ends up being the case, at 72, Sarah,
yeah,
Bill Belichick is going to college. I mean, they're saying that his girlfriend, who, as we all know, is a lot younger than him, has broken the news. Let's see if that ends up being the case. But this to me suggests that he felt like he had reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, for a second consecutive hiring cycle, he was going to be frozen. And that is wild.
Yeah, it is.
But you can't blame organizations for passing on him.
Well,
I'm not saying the game has passed him by.
Well, I could blame him for perpetual losing franchises. Like, get some good mojo going. Look to see how it's supposed to be done. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to think of like, I don't know, the Raiders or, I mean, the Browns are in a decent position with Stefanski. I don't know. I'm just thinking of people that just like can't get it right. You know, like those franchises, like just get a peek into what championship processes look like and coaching looks like and all of that. So I can blame some of them.
When you
but
look
some of the winners that know how to pick a coach, like I don't blame them.
When you look at outside of who've become the staples in this league, tenure-wise, Andy Reid, Tomlin, Harbaugh, Pete Carroll before he retired. I don't know if he's actually retired. I mean, he left Seattle or was pushed out of Seattle or his contract wasn't renewed, whatever it was. There's been an infusion of youth. Mike McDonald, of course, leading the torch, holding the torch right now. Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell.
At the time, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And so, yeah, I kind of see why soon-to-be 73-year-old Bill Belichick, who already there were reports on at the end of his tenure with New England, maybe wasn't relating to the locker room as much as he used to. I could see why you want to go in a different direction.
Bengals would be a great spot for him. Put him in there with Joe Burrow.
You think they're ready to ditch Zach Taylor? Who knows?
I mean, he never has his team ready at the beginning of the year, right? Like you have right now, like I was seeing some stats of like how phenomenal both Burrow and several guys, they have so many good pieces that they should be able to build around, and they're just not able. Like Bengals seem like such a good spot.
Chicago's wide open right
Taylor
now.
Is so underperforming with Burrow right now. You kidding me?
There's an underperformance on the defensive side of the ball. That's for sure. I mean,
I know we don't want that. Chat's like, no, Sarah, we don't want Bill Belichick in the AFC North. I got you. I'm taking ourselves out of it for a minute. And while I'm saying, like, yes, you can blame some franchises for not calling him up. Like, call him up.
Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase individually are having just ridiculous statistical years, and they're on a 5-8 team.
Yeah.
It's got to be so miserable for that fan base right now.
If you're the owner, are you moving on from Zach Taylor with that? That's so underperforming.
You gotta look at it. You gotta look at it.
I can't believe you're even hesitating, Robert.
Pittsburgh, meanwhile, will be without George Pickens next week, meaning this upcoming weekend. I believe they play Philadelphia.
Correct.
As we've already discussed. Yeah, that's the 15th. They
and
play
because
Philadelphia.
Hammy's, so I put it in here because it's the Steelers. We're obviously fighting for the AFC North. The Ravens need them to lose against the Eagles. Plus, on top of it, hamstrings are like finicky. So is that going to linger into Baltimore week?
Well, and outside of this too, just speaking to the game itself coming up, that pretty much puts Freiermuth as their top target at tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, they have other wide receivers, of course, but I think that puts Pat Freiermuth as Russell Wilson's top target. So this is setting up for what the Ravens need. But Pittsburgh has proven to be very, very resilient this year, and they're going to have to be that over the next 4 weeks. They've got Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Cincinnati in the regular season finale, as we've discussed. That's what their next 4 weeks presents. Odafe Owe hosted a surprise shopping spree for 7th and 8th graders from Project, what is this? Is this Noma?
Numa?
Project Noma? Something like that, Numa? Project Noma over the bye. Good on Odafe. He's having a career year and contributing to the community. Well done there. The Ravens posted that. Odafe, of course, coming off his 5th-year option being exercised, has a career high in sacks thus far.
Numa is what Chad is saying. Numa.
Excuse me, Numa.
Yeah, but good for Owe.
Project Numa. What questions do you have about the trip?
Okay.
I'll let you think about it, and we'll get our patrons in.
Okay. Which,
Richard
by the
Harris.
way, there was 2 days where I forgot about patrons. And what's funny is sometimes when I end the stream, people who are not fully caught up going live with us, but maybe a couple minutes behind, Tila was like a minute behind after I hit the end of the live stream, and then I see a new comment come up, and Tila was like, "Did she shut out the patrons? Did she miss it again?" I was like, "Oh crap!" So
Tila,
I had to do 6 patrons on one day, but I did it beginning and end to make up for it, and I expressed my love for them genuinely.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. 6.
But we're
6
caught
of
up,
them.
Bobby. I caught up before you came back. I got
Tila?
that done.
Teal, we appreciate you co-producing from your remote location. Richard Harris and Nishad. And by the way, as we've always mentioned this about one another when the other is out. Solo hosting is a challenge. Some things fall through the cracks. Just how it goes.
Gosh. Especially the day where I had to do the giveaway. That was brutal. That was going back and forth between a million things. I had the Taurus. Sarah, you're about to be replaced by Tila. I better be careful. I could be Marcus Williams before I know it.
You know she never misses a show. So
yeah.
Appreciate you, Teal. But yeah, it's a multitasking extravaganza when you're solo.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
As always, thank you for holding down the fort. Richard and Nishad, thank you both for the support that you give us, for being members of the Vault Patreon community. We appreciate you guys. And if you're interested in doing the same this football season, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to get involved and take a look at what we're offering. You can support the show for as little as $1.99, and it really goes a long way towards what we do in our efforts on a daily basis.
So after you got there a day and a half late, A, how was your energy level? And then B, what was like the best highlight of the trip? That's what I need from you.
B was Lillehammer, the site of the 1994 Winter Olympics. You know I'm a Winter Olympic nut. I'm an Olympic nut. I've interned at a couple games, the Rio games, the South Korea games. I love the Olympics, and so I know I'm going in opposite order. But Lillehammer, which is outside of Oslo, Norway, we took a train on our last day there and pulled up at the start of the day. There's only 5 or 6 hours of daylight, so you have to get moving and be mindful of like the 10 to 3 hours during the day. We got there. We took the first train out of Oslo. We got in around 9 a.m. There was not a soul in this place. It was on Sunday. And it was just the most majestic winter wonderland. I was so happy that we got out of Oslo. Not that I didn't like it, but it went from city to remote location. And they had a ski jump that was like thousands of, they say meters, but thousands of feet in the air. We walked, like I said, we averaged 20,000 steps per day. We walked all of Lillehammer. Like we literally walked to the side, to the east, west, north, south, over a bridge, up to the top of the ski jump, ran into like a Nordic skiing event for the World Cup. It was just, I really enjoyed that day on Sunday. And then for those that missed it, I consider myself very savvy when it comes to traveling. This is an embarrassing start to the trip. I'm going to hold myself accountable here and hopefully help out some of you along the way that are maybe unaware. If you have a passport and it expires within 6 months of when you're traveling, you can't travel. There are a couple exceptions out there. I thought I had one of them. I thought wrong. And I couldn't board my flight with my college buddy the Monday night after the Eagles game. I couldn't board it. It expires in February. I thought I had 60 days of clearance. The universal rule is that it's within 6 months, and mine expired, and it does expire in February. And so Iceland Air didn't let me out. We put up a big stink. We tried our best to work the system and sweet talk, and next thing you know, Matt was on his way, and I was just like, dude, I literally looked at him. I go, And he's looking at me and I'm looking at him, and we're getting closer and closer to boarding time. And I can tell he's starting to get a little stressed. This is the Monday after the Eagles game, like I mentioned. And I can tell he's like, what do I do? I'm like, do I go? Do I not go? I finally looked at him. I was like, I will see you in Sweden.
Yeah.
I had no confidence whatsoever to tell him that. But that like motivated me to figure out how the heck I was going to actually see him in Sweden.
Yeah.
And so I left BWI, I go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'm like totally at the terminal, just totally beside myself. Matt Messino comes on the friggin' intercom. They're like trying to get him to the board. Last call. It was just like this out of a movie moment. I race back to Canton. Can't find any parking anywhere because it's his car. I left the Bronco here, and proceeded to, as you know, go down to DC to expedite my passport renewal. Paid out the wazoo for it, but ended up working out. I did not get a refund for that initial flight that I missed, even though it was insured. So basically, I ended up paying.
Why? Because it didn't insure the passport thing?
Yeah, it didn't. It was insured for specific reasoning, not being a bonehead. Not being a bonehead. They didn't insure bonehead.
What? It's insured. Like when you get in car accidents, half of them are because you're being a bonehead.
Yeah, it's true. Honestly, I will probably press them if I have any free time over the next couple of weeks. This company.
Free time.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it was if there was one flight that I were to miss, it was the first one. It was $285. It was BWI to Iceland to Stockholm, Sweden. And so what really was the tough blow about the trip, and I just kind of had to eat it, was I ended up paying over $600 one way for 2 extra flights just to get there 24 hours later. Meaning just to leave 24 hours later. Yeah. And I didn't want to book that flight until I had my passport resolved. So the beginning of the trip was a disaster. Long story short, had to pay for the one-way flight to get over there. Went from BWI to Atlanta to Paris to Stockholm. The first day and a half was obviously carved. Didn't have it. So Matt was on his own in Stockholm, Sweden, which made for some fun stories and banter back and forth when I did ultimately get there. But the Nordic is cool. This time of year, tough. 5 or 6 hours of daylight. That can be tricky. You just kind of, it's like it is outside for those of you in the Maryland area today. I mean, it's just doom and gloom. They get very little daylight, and then on top of that, it's gray skies. So I had a blast, though.
I think Daniel speaks for all of us. Did you meet any Swedish women? Did you exchange phone numbers with any Swedish women?
We met. Yeah, I met girls along the way. I had the apps rolling. Yeah, I had the apps rolling. Look, I don't know if everybody, of course, wants to know what's going on with Madison and stuff, and who knows.
You said you're technically still single. You guys are not together. Yeah.
I don't think I'm really like saying anything crazy here, but Madison lives in Nashville. I live here. She was the cute girl that I met at the tailgate probably over a month ago now. And it just hasn't materialized. And so I think she's great. I think she thinks I'm great. And who knows if she ends up coming back. I don't have the flexibility, obviously, over the next kind of closing months of the season to get down there. I probably would have if I had flexibility. But that's just where we're at. So if she's listening, I don't think there's anything that's groundbreaking about that. And so yeah, I did have the apps going over there. We just ran into some girls out at the bars and whatnot, and met some.
That's so funny.
We met. I mean, it's funny. There's a certain elegance to European women that I'm enthralled by. To be honest with you, I find them incredibly elegant, cultured. There's a certain sophistication to them that's really intriguing. Most of them know multiple languages, and as somebody who speaks Spanish, it was fluent once. It's not anymore. I can probably do conversational at this point. I've just always been intrigued by that. So yeah, we met a lot of people along the way, most of which was just good spirited conversation, worldly conversation about travels, about Sweden as a country, about Norway as a country. And so it's always my favorite part of travels, just the people that you meet along the way. For the first time as a 30-year-old, I didn't stay in a hostel. That was all Matt's doing. Okay, Matt. It is what it was. But
you didn't put up much of a fight.
Yeah, no, I didn't. He was. How could I put up a fight when I totally screwed him at the beginning of the trip?
You're like, whatever you want to do, Matt. Whatever you want to do. So
But
just to get this straight, you're looking for an elegant woman that can also go to a stadium and enjoy a football, baseball game, all those type of games. She's got to be able to come in and out of that, right?
yeah. If I consider myself like a Renaissance man, how about a Renaissance woman? I don't know if that necessarily
Okay.
matches up perfectly, but I'm just looking for somebody that is authentic, has a interest, has a worldly view, has an interest in travel, is family oriented, is healthy, has a healthy lifestyle. But that global view, that worldly view, Sarah, I feel like more and more is starting to become why I've become so picky. I really do. I see certain profiles, and I'm just immediately. You already know this. I'm immediately writing off women. It's just I'm thinking to myself, I'm picturing them on the road with me, in a travel environment, and I think a lot of women in a lot of Americans. Let me be clear here. A lot of Americans, my age, they just don't have an interest in life outside of what they've built here. And I've always been totally obsessed with the idea of putting myself, and by the way, it's not just women, this is my dating experience. It's not just women. And I'm talking generally speaking, my millennials. And so I just have this obsession.
Oh, you're talking men and women, millennials.
Yeah. I'm just saying I'm not I don't want to narrow it down to women. Some of the women that I've come across throughout my dating experiences, I feel like their lack of worldly view is a little bit of a turnoff for me. So anyway, long story short,
I'll just put this out there just so you know.
Yeah.
Prior to meeting my husband, I mean, I liked a good vacation here and there, but it wasn't like a big thing for me.
Yeah.
But he's made me a little bit more adventurous. So
Okay.
there are, I'm just saying people like change and grow and all that kind of stuff. Just,
I need to have an open.
like I have a hard time believing that if you were with somebody and you were like, hey, let's go to Sweden, that they'd be like, nah, I'm good. Do you know what I mean? Like you just like,
No. I think that's a great counter.
Way. Yeah.
It's a great counter, and it's like reminder number 1,000 to myself that I do need to have an open mind.
Yeah.
So you know what? I do want to show you guys one interesting.
Yeah, give us some pictures.
Very Norwegian cultural thing that I did. They are big on saunas, outdoor saunas. And the fjords is their body of water in Oslo that borders, it really surrounds the city. And so I went and did a Norwegian sauna experience, which included sitting in a sauna room, which is 108 degrees, eucalyptus. They had some dude that was in there that was kind of like a spiritual masseuse, or I guess just a spiritual. I don't even know what his role was, but he was really cool. And he like looked like a caveman, and you could just tell that this dude is about as healthy and natural as you could possibly be. Like if you were to throw him into the woods with very little materials, he would survive. So anyway, we're sitting in there with him in the sauna, and I'm like barely being able to, I can't even breathe. It's so hot in here. So finally, they're like, hey, next up, you got to go become one with yourself. You got to go jump in the fjord, in the water. It's 6 degrees. Like, you got to be kidding me. So what do you know? I took a video of myself in the aftermath of that, and I wanted to share that with you. Let's see. Let's make sure the audio is on. 108 degrees. Hold on. See if I can get through this without shivering. First Norwegian polar plunges in the book. 6 degrees, middle of winter in the Nordic. 108 degrees here in this 45-minute sauna session. Just met a bunch of UK dudes. Literally never felt so alive. The whole like cold tub thing that's been a viral trend over the years, I've often like scoffed at it. No, I might be investing in a cold tub stat. I feel incredible right now. And it's 9 o'clock.
Interesting.
Sarah, it felt incredible.
Yeah, but like, what do you mean it felt incredible? What felt incredible about it? Just that it wakes you up? Because you like when you're in it, are you like, I could see myself screaming out of pain. So what do you mean it felt incredible?
Energizing.
I I mean, definitely has to wake you up.
freeing and loosening for your body. It's this, and honestly, it makes you feel like you conquered something too, because you're not just jumping in; they're making you sit in the water, and you're trying to control your breathing.
I like
And
that part.
it's
Okay, I
pitch
like that.
black outside. Oh, you would love it because there's a
You-
challenge attached
You
to
just
it.
talked about the self-mastery part of it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit here, and I'm not going to freak out, and I'm just going to absorb it, and it's mind over matter. Now you got me. Yeah.
Period. There's a challenge that's attached to it.
Yeah, I like that.
And you're with these other guys from around the world. Like I mentioned, these guys that I met from the UK that were traveling. And of course I gotta rip Matt for just a second here because he's cracks me up and he's so unintentionally funny. So this is my loyal. I know we got to go to, and I appreciate you allowing me to share my stories here.
I'll just say the chat is cracking me up right now.
They're all in. I'm glad they're all in, or else we would have had to stop this by now.
The
Yeah,
chat never gets going quite like when we tell personal stories. That's for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sedarian's like, we're way past football right now, but we actually have a couple super chats that are about football that we're going to get to before we finish up. But there's just this challenging aspect to it. It's pitch black. You're in the middle of Oslo, Norway. Matt went to the Munch Museum. Okay, so he declined the sauna experience and went to the Munch Museum instead. And this was my college buddy. We were super close. We nicknamed him the Congressman because he's involved in DC politics, and he cracks me up. So the Congressman goes to the Munch Museum. I go rogue into the sauna. And it just ended up being this awesome experience. I think I was really dehydrated for at least 24 hours after it because it was over 45 minutes. But just one of those like bucket list items that you do, one, because it's a local thing. It's like a staple of Norway, but there's also like a challenge attached to it as well. So
yeah, I like
that. Was that. What else you guys got? Any other questions? This was the Lillehammer day, Sarah. This was a really special day. This was the Nordic skiing competition that they were in the middle of, and we climbed up in Lillehammer to be a part of it and watch it. And I think some of these people are tracking to the Milan Winter Olympics in 2026. So, I was just all in on it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this.
That's cool.
I
think I did see one of your posts where like a guy just jumped and he was flying. He was in the air for a good 7-8 seconds. It's crazy.
The Nordic skiers. Here it is. The one that you're referencing. Look at this. Look at this dude.
Look at this dude. 1, 2.
He's flying.
3, 4. Okay, 4 seconds.
I mean, these Nordic skiers are so talented. It's a part of their life. When you only have that little daylight and you live essentially in the North Pole, of course you're going to become a skier. The town of Lillehammer is 2 hours outside of Oslo, north of it. It's just, I would encourage everyone to put it on their bucket list. If you want to go to Scandinavia, you want to do things a little bit different, off the beaten path in the winter, it's a great place to do it.
That's cool.
Look at how vast it is.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it would remind you of Colorado.
I'm glad you got to go. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Colorado and Utah. Very snowy, very mountainy.
Like you could be walking through the city and yet you're peeking through areas of the mountains. So anyway, that was my my Scandinavian bye-week experience, and goes without saying, we always have each other's backs when we have opportunities to go away. And thanks again for taking care of business.
Yeah, of course. Happy to do it. Happy to return the favor. So glad you got the
There will be more. Ben says, the trip looks sick, Bobby. Saunas are essential. Look, Ben's a loyal guy, buddy of mine. Ben literally bikes all throughout Europe. This dude is a beast. So Ben knows a thing or two about Euro travel. Appreciate you, Ben. Isaiah says, glad to see you both. Do you think the wild card will keep us focused, almost as underdogs going into the postseason? I'll let you take that one.
Sure. You got no time to breathe. You got no time to think. You just got to keep your head down, keep the schedule. Yeah. I mean, listen, the first round buys have not gone well in the Lamar Jackson era. And I think the Ravens will probably end up the 5th seed. That's where I think it's most likely going, but we'll see. There's 4 games left.
That means they'd match up with the 4 seed. Currently they'd be matching up with Houston on the road. Adit writes, Bobby, what's your reaction to Juan Soto's deal? For those of you who hasn't paying attention, 15 years, $765 million to sign with the Mets.
Whoa,
Sarah.
wait. Say that number again.
Yeah. I'll say it again.
$750 million to play baseball.
This is baseball pays. Baseball pays. Juan Soto signed a 15-year, $765 million deal with the New York Mets. He goes from one New York team to the other. And Adit, my thoughts are this. I think the Yankees are going to be better off. He's one of the greatest hitters of all time. Super young, so much baseball in front of him. When you sign that deal, you don't finish it. You just don't finish those deals. And I think that while the Mets, it could get them a World Series title over the next 5 years, there's no way. And maybe that's what they're playing for, and maybe that'll end up being worth it in their eyes. But there's no way that he's a New York Met 15 years from now. No chance. Dream says, Bobby, hoped you enjoyed your vacation. Mine was boring. I saw Dreams at the Eagles tailgate. He was great to meet in person. He's our Virginia subscriber, Sarah, down in
nice
Central Virginia. Tank Bromansky says, Bill Belichick is just doing side quests at this point.
That's a good word for it.
You got to wonder, will his salary be north or south of everything that he's put together media-wise at North Carolina? I really wonder. You think so?
Media-wise?
You think UNC is going to pay him more than all of what he's doing collectively, not just ESPN?
I guess I don't know what he's making with the media.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, I think he could be paid handsomely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Cameron reminding me there is an opt-out after 5 years for Juan. Yes, there is for that Soto agreement. But lots going on, Sarah. There was just anytime we leave the country, like I mentioned, there's something that goes down. Whether it was the Diontae Johnson suspension, whether it was this insane manhunt that came to an end yesterday in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after the CEO murder in broad daylight, or I guess the sun hadn't risen yet in New York. Whether it was, I just felt like there's just so much going on right now that I've had to catch up on. But anyway, you and I are back in action. We've got the Giants to look forward to. We have a guest that we have to track down this week. And I look forward to being back in the saddle with you.
I look forward to it too. It's already been great. Great first day back. We missed you. It'll be good. It'll be good for the next 4 weeks. See where this thing takes us. See where the season takes us.
Missed you guys too, which is why I found myself continuing to chime in on the stream.
In the chat, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun doing that. I was on I'm pretty sure I was on like a Stockholm train at one point. And it was dark as all heck out. I'm like, you know what? 6 hours. Oh, Sarah's live right now. Let me go pull up. So anyway, we went a little long today. We thought we might be just because of
want to give vacation updates.
The Chronicles. Thank you for letting me get into the Chronicles.
Thanks for telling us.
This was a live stream takeover, Julian. So I appreciate you guys for welcoming me back. And it's officially week 15. So Sarah and I are off and running. Thanks to all of you who popped in. We are closing in on that 20,000 subscription count number. So please, if you haven't already, hit that subscription button, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to, we're closing in on 30 now, Sarah, under 30, 28 to go to 20,000, a big milestone for us. So for
maybe
Mantis
by tomorrow, we got to celebrate somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. And thanks to Mantis Sleep for sponsoring this episode. Thanks to Sarah for holding down the fort as always over the last week or so in solo hosting. And for all of you for the continued support as we get into the crunch time mode over the next 4 weeks, as the regular season starts to wind down and the postseason push continues. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll be back with you in under 23 hours from right now. And for all of you, we'll catch up with you then. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the support as always. Talk soon.